Chapter 12, Part 2 of the Life of Harriet Beecher Stowe, compiled from her letters and journals by her son Charles Edward Stowe. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 12, Dred, 1856, Part 2. Having dispatched this note, Mrs. Stowe wrote to her husband concerning their surroundings and plans as follows. Friday, 16th. Confusion in the camp. No baggage come, nobody knows why. Running to stations, inquiries, messages, and no baggage. Meanwhile, we have not even a clean collar, nothing but very soiled travelling dresses, while Lady Mary de Boucherie writes that her carriage will wait for us at Slough Station this afternoon, and we must be off at 2. What's to be done? Luckily I did not carry all my dresses to Dunrobin, so I, of all the party, have a dress that can be worn. We go out and buy collars and handkerchiefs, and 2 o'clock beholds us at the station house. Stoke Park. I arrived here alone, the baggage not having yet been heard from. Mr. G., being found in London, confessed that he delayed sending it by the proper train. In short, Mr. G. is what is called an easy man, and one whose easiness makes everybody else uneasy. So, because he was easy and thought it no great matter, and things would turn out well enough without any great care, we have had all this discomfort. I arrived alone at the Slough Station, and found Lady Mary's carriage waiting. Away we drove through the beautiful park, full of deer, who were so tame as to stand and look at us as we passed. The house is in the Italian style, with a dome on top, and wide terraces with stone balustrades around it. Lady Mary met me at the door, and seemed quite concerned to learn of our ill fortune. We went through a splendid suite of rooms to a drawing-room, where a little tea-table was standing. After tea, Lady Mary showed me my room. It had that delightful home-like air of repose and comfort that succeeds so well in giving to rooms here. There was a cheerful fire burning, an armchair drawn up beside it, a sofa on the other side with a neatly arranged sofa-table on which were writing materials. One of the little girls had put a pot of pretty greenhouse moss in a silver basket on this table, and my toilet cushion was made with a place in the centre to hold a little vase of flowers. Here Lady Mary left me to rest before dressing for dinner. I sat down in an easy chair before the fire, and formed hospitable resolutions as to how I would try to make rooms always look home-like and pleasant to tired guests. Then came the maid to know if I wanted hot water, if I wanted anything, and by it was time for dinner. Going down into the parlour, I met Mr. Labouchere, and we all went in to dinner. It was not quite as large a party as at Dunrobin, but much in the same way. No company, but several ladies who were all family connections. The following morning Lord Dufferin and Lord Alfred Paget, 2 gentlemen of the Queen's household, rode over from Windsor to lunch with us. They brought news of the goings-on there. Do you remember one night the Duchess of S. read us a letter from Lady Dufferin, describing the exploits of her son, who went yachting with Prince Napoleon up by Spitzbergen, and when Prince Napoleon and all the rest gave up and went back, still persevered and discovered a new island? Well, this was the same man, a thin, slender person, not at all the man you would fancy as a Mr. Greatheart, lively, cheery, and conversational. Lord Alfred is also very pleasant. Lady Mary prevailed on Lord Dufferin to stay and drive with us after lunch, and we went over to Clifton, the Duchess's villa, of which we saw the photograph at Dunrobin. For grace and beauty, some of the rooms in this place exceed any I have yet seen in England. When we came back, my first thought was whether Aunt Mary and the girls had come. Just as we were all going up to dress for dinner, they appeared. Meanwhile, the Queen had sent over from Windsor for Lady Mary and her husband to dine with her that evening, and such invitations are understood as commands. So, although they themselves had invited 4 or 5 people to dinner, they had to go and leave us to entertain ourselves. Lady Mary was dressed very prettily in a flounced white silk dress with a pattern of roses woven round the bottom of each flounce, and looked very elegant. Mr. Labouchere wore breeches with knee and shoe buckles sparkling with diamonds. They got home soon after we had left the drawing-room, as the Queen always retires at 11. No late hours for her. The next day Lady Mary told me that the Queen had talked to her all about Dred, and how she preferred it to Uncle Tom's Cabin, how interested she was in Nina, how provoked when she died, and how she was angry that something dreadful did not happen to Tom Gordon. She inquired for Papa and the rest of the family, all of whom she seemed to be well informed about. The next morning we had Lord Dufferin again to breakfast. He is one of the most entertaining young men I have seen in England, full of real thought and noble feeling, and has a wide range of reading. He has read all our American literature, and was very flattering in his remarks on Hawthorne, Poe, and Longfellow. I find J.R. Lowell less known, however, than he deserves to be. Lord Dufferin says that his mother wrote him some verses on his coming of age, and that he built a tower for them and inscribed them on a brass plate. I recommend the example to you, Henry. Make yourself the tower, and your memory the brass plate. This morning came also to call Lady Augusta Bruce, Lord Elgin's daughter, one of the Duchess of Kent's ladies-in-waiting, a very excellent, sensible girl who is a strong anti-slavery body. After lunch we drove over to Eton and went in to see the Provost's house. After this, as we were passing by Windsor, the coachman suddenly stopped and said, "The Queen is coming, my lady." We stood still, and the royal cortege passed. I only saw the Queen, who bowed graciously. Lady Mary stayed at our car door till it left the station, and handed in a beautiful bouquet as we parted. This is one of the loveliest visits I have made. After filling a number of other pleasant engagements in England, among which was a visit in the family of Charles Kingsley, Mrs. Stowe and her party crossed the Channel and settled down for some months in Paris for the express purpose of studying French. From the French capital she writes to her husband in Andover as follows: Paris, November 7th, 1856. My dear husband, on the 28th, when your last was written, I was at Charles Kingsley's. It seemed odd enough to Mary and me to find ourselves, long after dark, alone in a hack, driving towards the house of a man whom we never had seen, nor his wife either. My heart fluttered, as, after rumbling a long way through the dark, we turned into a yard. We knocked at a door, and were met in the hall by a man who stammers a little in his speech, and whose inquiry, "Is this Mrs. Stowe?" was our first positive introduction. Ushered into a large, pleasant parlor, lighted by a coal fire, which flickered on comfortable chairs, lounges, pictures, statuettes, and bookcases, we took a good view of him. He is tall, slender, with blue eyes, brown hair, and a hale, well-browned face, and somewhat loose-jointed withal. His wife is a real Spanish beauty. How we did talk and go on for 3 days! I guess he is tired. I'm sure we were. He is a nervous, excitable being, and talks with head, shoulders, arms, and hands, while his hesitance makes it the harder. Of his theology I will say more some other time. He also has been through the great distress, the conflict of ages, but has come out at a different end from Edward, and stands with John Foster, though with more positiveness than he. He laughed a good deal at many stories I told him of father, and seemed delighted to hear about him. But he is, what I did not expect, a zealous churchman, insists that the Church of England is the finest and broadest platform a man can stand on, and that the 39 Articles are the only ones he could subscribe to. I told him you thought them the best summary of doctrine you knew, which pleased him greatly. Well, I got your letter tonight in Paris, at number 19, Rue de Clichy, where you may as well direct your future letters. We reached Paris about 11 o'clock last night, and took a carriage for 17 Rue de Clichy, but when we got there no ringing or pounding could rouse anybody. Finally, in despair, we remembered a card that had been handed into the cars by some hotel runner, and finding it was of an English and French hotel, we drove there, and secured very comfortable accommodations. We did not get to bed until after 2 o'clock. The next morning I sent a messenger to find Madame Bourrienne, and discovered that we had mistaken the number and should have gone to number 19, which was the next door. So we took a carriage and soon found ourselves established there, where we have a nice parlor and 2 bedrooms. There are 21 in the family, mostly Americans, like ourselves, come to learn to speak French. One of them is a tall, handsome young English lady, Miss Durand, who is a sculptress studying with Baron de Triquetti. She took me to his studio, and he immediately remarked that she ought to get me to sit. I said I would, only my French lessons. "Oh," said he, smiling, "we will give you French lessons while you sit." So I go tomorrow morning. As usual, my horrid pictures do me a service, and people seem relieved when they see me. They think me even handsome in a manner. Kingsley, in his relief, expressed as much to his wife, and as beauty has never been one of my strong points, I am open to flattery upon it. We had a most agreeable call from Arthur Helps before we left London. He, Kingsley, and all the good people are full of the deepest anxiety for our American affairs. They really do feel very deeply, seeing the peril so much plainer than we do in America. Sunday night. I fear I have delayed your letter too long. The fact is that of the 10 days I have been here, I have been laid up 3 with severe neuralgia, viz., toothache in the backbone, and since then have sat all day to be modelled for my bust. We spent the other evening with Baron de Triquetti, the sculptor. He has an English wife and a charming daughter about the age of our girls. Life in Paris is altogether more simple and natural than in England. They give you a plate of cake and a cup of tea in the most informal, social way. The tea-kettle sings at the fire, and the son and daughter busy themselves gaily together, making and handing tea. When the tea was over, Monsieur de Triquetti showed us a manuscript copy of the Gospels, written by his mother to console herself in a season of great ill health, and which he had illustrated all along with exquisite pen drawings, resembling the most perfect line engravings. I cannot describe the beauty, grace, delicacy, and fullness of devotional feeling in these people. He is one of the loveliest men I ever saw. We have already 3 evenings in the week in which we can visit and meet friends if we choose, namely at Madame Maule's, Madame Lanzille's, and Madame Belloc's. All these salons are informal, social gatherings, with no fuss of refreshments, no nonsense of any kind. Just the cheeriest, heartiest, kindest little receptions you ever saw. A kiss to dear little Charlie. If he could see all the things that I see every day in the Tuileries and Champs-Élysées, he would go wild. All Paris is a general whirligig out of doors, but indoors people seem steady, quiet, and sober as anybody. November 30th. This is Sunday evening, and a Sunday in Paris always puts me in mind of your story about somebody who said, "Bless you, they make such a noise that the devil couldn't meditate." All the extra work and odd jobs of life are put into Sunday. Your washerwoman comes Sunday with her innocent, good-humored face, and would be infinitely at a loss to know why she shouldn't. Your bonnet, cloak, shoes, and everything are sent home Sunday morning, and all the way to church there is such pirouetting and whirligigging along the boulevards as almost takes one's breath away. To-day we went to the Oratoire to hear Monsieur Grandpierre. I could not understand much. My French ear is not quick enough to follow. I could only perceive that the subject was La Charité, and that the speaker was fluent, graceful, and earnest, and the audience serious and attentive. Last night we were at Baron de Triquetti's again, with a party invited to celebrate the birthday of their eldest daughter, Blanche, a lovely girl of 19. There were some good ladies there who had come 80 leagues to meet me, and who were so delighted with my miserable French that it was quite encouraging. I believe I am getting over the sandbar at last. The conversation is beginning to come easy to me. There were 3 French gentlemen who had just been reading Dred in English, and who were as excited and full of it as could be, and I talked with them to a degree that astonished myself. There is a review of Dred in the Revue des Deux Mondes, which has long extracts from the book, and is written in a very appreciative and favorable spirit. Generally speaking, French critics seem to have a finer appreciation of my subtle shades of meaning than English. I am curious to hear what Professor Park has to say about it. There has been another review in La Presse, equally favorable. All seem to see the truth about American slavery much plainer than people can who are in it. If American ministers and Christians could see through their sophistical spider-webs, with what wonder, pity, and contempt they would regard their own vacillating condition. We visit once a week at Madame Moll's, where we meet all sorts of agreeable people. Lady Elgin doesn't go into society now, having been struck with paralysis, but sits at home and receives her friends as usual. This notion of sitting always in the open air is one of her peculiarities. I must say, life in Paris is arranged more sensibly than with us. Visiting involves no trouble in the feeding line. People don't go to eat. A cup of tea and a plate of biscuit is all, just enough to break up the stiffness. It is wonderful that the people here do not seem to have got over Uncle Tom a bit. The impression seems fresh as if just published. How often have they said, "That book has revived the gospel among the poor of France. It has done more than all the books we have published put together. It has gone among the Les Ouvriers, among the poor of Faubourg Saint-Antoine, and nobody knows how many have been led to Christ by it. Is not this blessed, my dear husband? Is it not worth all the suffering of writing it?" I went the other evening to Monsieur Grandpierre's, where there were 3 rooms full of people, all as eager and loving as ever we met in England or Scotland. Oh, if Christians in Boston could only see the earnestness of feeling with which Christians here regard slavery, and their surprise and horror at the lukewarmness, to say the least, of our American church. About 11 o'clock we all joined in singing a hymn, and then Monsieur Grandpierre made an address, in which I was named in the most affectionate and cordial manner. Then followed a beautiful prayer for our country, for America, on which hang so many hopes of Protestantism. One and all they came up, and there was a great shaking of hands and much effusion. Under date of December 28th, Mrs. Perkins writes, quote, "On Sunday we went with Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Abbott to the Hotel des Invalides, and I think I was never more interested and affected. 3 or 4,000 old and disabled soldiers have here a beautiful and comfortable home. We went to the morning service. The church is very large, and the colors taken in battle are hung on the walls. Some of them are so old as to be moth-eaten. The service is performed as near as possible in imitation of the service before a battle. The drum beats the call to assemble, and the common soldiers march up and station themselves in the center of the church under the commander. All the services are regulated by the beat of the drum. Only one priest officiates, and soldiers are stationed around to protect him. The music is from a brass band, and is very magnificent. In the afternoon I went to vespers in the Madeleine, where the music was exquisite. They have 2 fine organs at opposite ends of the church. The Adeste Fidelis was sung by a single voice, accompanied by the organ, and after every verse it was taken up by male voices and the other organ and repeated. The effect was wonderfully fine. I have always found in our small churches at home that the organ was too powerful and pained my head, but in these large cathedrals the effect is different. The volume of sound rolls over, full but soft, and I feel as though it must come from another sphere. In the evening Mr. and Mrs. Bunsen called. He is the son of Chevalier Bunsen, and she a niece of Elizabeth Fry. Very intelligent and agreeable people." End quote. Under date of January 25th, Mrs. Stowe writes from Paris, quote, "Here's a story for Charlie. The boys in the Faubourg Saint-Antoine are the children of ouvriers, and every day their mothers give them 2 sous to buy a dinner. When they heard I was coming to the school, of their own accord they subscribed half their dinner money to give to me for the poor slaves. This 5-franc piece I have now, I have bought it of the cause for $5, and am going to make a hole in it and hang it round Charlie's neck as a medal. I have just completed arrangements for leaving the girls at a Protestant boarding school while I go to Rome. We expect to start the 1st of February, and my direction will be East Bartholomew, 108 Via Margherita. End of Chapter 12, Part 2. Read by Michelle Fry, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.